So if you're in the business of having to talk to clients and customers to earn your living in your job, in your business, then you need to be able to connect quickly with any client under any situation. If you're really going to develop rapport, pull down the sales barriers and close more sales. So I want to give you a couple of quick tips on some of the things that I notice around how clients are having conversations with their customers, with their clients. So here's the problem right now. I can't think of a time where it's been more competitive in the market, where consumers have been more savvy, more switched in, and there's ever been more pressure on salespeople to hit budgets, hit quotas, hit their target, and on and on. Now, I can tell you one of the problems we've got. It's how we've been taught to sell. Now, I'm putting the blame for this squarely on traditional sales training. The way that we've been taught, the way that we've been drilled to think about what we're going to say, how we're going to say it. Some companies even got specific scripts that their people have to follow. Now, I listen to hundreds and hundreds of salespeople in their act of selling every week, every month. And I can tell you one of the biggest problems is that they're so in their own head with what they're going to say, they are literally missing what the customer says, missing buying signals, missing nuances in the way customers say certain things, and totally missing what they need to be hearing and connecting with from a client point of view. So here's a couple of tips to make sure that you're out of your own head and you're listening to your client. Now the problem is you're going to miss little road signs that the customers give us as to whether we should be going left, whether we should be going right, whether we should be speeding up, whether we should be slowing down. If we're so intent in what it is that we're about to say, we will do things like overlap our talk. We'll be talking when they want to talk. I've literally listened into sales calls where the salesperson is talking and the customer's there, but, and they still just keep talking over them. Stop and listen to what the customer is telling you. Otherwise, it's just like driving your car without any road signs. So how do you fix it? How do you change it? Well, here's a couple of really practical things you can start doing, and you can start doing these instantly, and I promise it's going to start giving you results instantly. So first thing you can practice doing is pausing. Every time you say something to the client, to your customer, whether you're sharing a feature, whether you're sharing a benefit, stop at the end of it for 3 to 5 seconds. Now, that's going to feel like an eternity, but what is going to happen is if you stop for 3 to 5 seconds after you've shared a thought, after you've shared an idea with the customer, pause. Don't say anything. Don't fill in the gap. The gap that you create, this silence, this pause, will put this weight into the conversation where the customer feels that need to fill that weight in. Now, I promise if you practice this, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but stop. 3 to 5, don't say anything. Let them be the next person to speak. Now, this space, what this space will create is the ability for them to be able to think, for them to be able to allow that to land what you've just said and potentially add something to that conversation. Come in with a question, come in with a thought. And it's those things that are more important to us in the sale than anything we could say. What they say is the most important. And how are we going to know if we're not giving them enough space to talk and to think? Now, the next step to this, after they've filled this gap in, remember, we don't talk next. Now, the better you get at this, the more you will do this throughout your sales presentation. But at the very least, you want to do this early as you're starting to get more information about them and what's important to them around this particular decision. As you're hitting key benefits of the product, check in with them and find out how that lands for them, what they think about that. Is that important to them? Is that a concern for them? And stop and give them the space to talk about that. Think about that. Now, I get it. This can be scary. The moment we stop talking, they're going to start talking. Well, where are they going to go, right? We would feel like we want to control the presentation. We want to control how this thing goes and control how they think. It doesn't work that way. The best way we're going to increase sales and increase them fast is to allow them to come into the presentation more. Find out what their real thoughts are. This is how we build a connection, giving them the space, giving them the courtesy, and wanting to know what it is that's important to them, wanting to know what they're thinking about. Now they feel important, they feel validated, and they also feel like they can share and be honest with you. And this is where we are really going to connect with our client. And this is where it really gets powerful in selling. So, what's the next thing we do? After we've given this 3 to 5 seconds for them to talk, for them to fill in that gap, we have to acknowledge where that goes. So after they've filled that gap in with whatever they've said, whatever they've asked, whatever they've expressed, we have to acknowledge that. So what does that sound like? Well, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Not a trick. Be human. Whatever. It doesn't matter what they said. Whatever it is they said, asked, thought. This is them. This is what they're feeling. The more we know that and understand that, the better we will be as the sale progresses. And why we want to do this early and throughout is because there's no sales pressure yet. Even if we're not putting pressure anywhere in the sale, they will feel some pressure, and this will create resistance. So we want to eliminate this as much as possible. And the better we connect, the better we give them space to talk, acknowledge what they've said, and then go to the next stage of it. Once we've acknowledged what they've done to fill in that gap, we may even go in a slightly different direction. We may recognize that we may need to now start doing something differently within that sales transaction if we're going to be successful with it. So you can start to see how this becomes more powerful. So here's the first thing to practice. Pause, stop, let them fill in that gap. Give them that gap to create that space, to allow them to think, to express their concerns, express their feelings, and then acknowledge them, whatever they are. Stay with that for a moment. Help me understand that a little bit more. Oh, that's interesting you say that. What makes you say that? Or what makes you feel that? Or what makes you think that? So go a little bit deeper. Connect with them. Be a human. Have a conversation. And that will shape where you go next and do it again. So keep them involved throughout the sales process, and you will know the truth of what's important for them. It will shape the way that you speak to them and talk to them. So it won't sound scripted. It won't sound like you're running off the same thing that you say to every customer. All of these things create rapport. All of these things connect you genuinely, truly connect you with that other human being. And then you're in a position to be able to make a recommendation based on what's good for them, rather than trying to sell them something, rather than try and pitch them something. And they'll feel like they've been involved right throughout, because they have. So if you want to not only just increase your sales, increase your margins, increase your profits, increase your commissions, but also have a more enjoyable experience, connect with your clients more, because who knows what that could do. They're going to come back to you more and more. They might buy higher ticket items off you. They might recommend you to their friends and family. It's all good. So why wouldn't we do this? Why wouldn't we connect more with our clients and watch our sales increase?